Welcome,
Thank you.
Jamie Shelton, CEO of Northrop. We're really excited to have you on board as part of the 100 Days for Change initiative. And we've looked at the initiatives that you've been working on, and we got very excited because firstly there's a lot, but also they seem to be going in directions that we haven't actually looked at from other organisations. So as a starting point, what was it about the 100 Days for Change that grabbed your attention?
So we'd been, trying to make some inroads into raising gender representation within Northrop, and particularly in the senior levels. And so while we had some great initiatives running, they just didn't quite have, the focus and the emphasis that we could bring to them with the 100 Days for Change program.
How did you go through that process of actually deciding that these were the top areas to focus on?
So we did some work both with women within Northrop, and separately we did some work with men within Northrop. So we got some good stories from the women in relation to what it's like to work at Northrop, what are the things that are holding them back, how do they feel that they might be disadvantaged as compared to the men. And then conversely, we had some good discussions with the men around helping them to be better aware of the biases which develop as men grow up. And so by taking those two viewpoints, it really helped us to understand where we could start making a difference here. The terminology that we use is co-creating. And so the men and the women come together with their different viewpoints, and both of whom buy in to actually bring about a change and understanding what we both bring to that. So that's how we set about coming up with these. And so, by doing that work with men and listening to the women, it gave us a great opportunity to say, yeah, this is still important, but there's a role for men to play in this.
We often hear from organisations that they'll have pockets that are, the early adopters. They see it as an issue and they're on board straight away. And then there's the continuum of even to the point that, oh, you know what, the women around here are quite happy with what they've got, or we can't, they're obviously not interested. So actually saying that we're doing the best we can. What was that like? What did you notice in terms of that engagement stage?
When we started with our most senior managers, which just by chance are mostly men anyway, but we organised a men-only session to talk about these things. And so if you take engagement simply as something that has a good business case to it, and that the business comes out and says we should do this, so I as CEO can absolutely put it as one of my strategic priorities, which I have. But true engagement means that each individual needs to bring something to it. And so to get men to actually start talking about what it means to them personally, and typically these are stories about the women in their lives and the respect they have for them, and this personal engagement and attachment they feel to living up to and fulfilling, an expectation of them that comes from these great role models in their lives. And the other thing we did, which was a very interesting thing, which was, we were led through this by Colleen McKinnon and her business partner in a workshop. We took the stories from the women and we rewrote those in such a way that one man could pose them to another, and you'd then very much personalise it, as it's no longer a man talking to a woman, but it's a man talking to a man. And they just made you feel so uncomfortable, and that, look, this clearly isn't right. And so that absolutely really helped to personalise it as well. So I guess the key to it is this real personal engagement in it.
Knowing as well that flexibility has been on the agenda, with this sort of dynamic, what have you noticed that's different now?
So we got the senior men like myself talking about their flexible work arrangements, or their desire for more flexible work arrangements. And some of them would talk about their regrets of when their children were younger, why they didn't take those opportunities, and now they see they're about to finish school and they wish that they had. So making it, trying to normalise it, making it something that was important to all of us, and that it wasn't just a problem for women has absolutely helped a lot there.
And so that's an initiative that you're already working on.
Yeah.
And I suppose starting to change the dialogue around it. What initiative would you say now is standing out as a new initiative that you're putting focus on?
The senior leadership team at Northrop, so there's just 7 of us there spread across the business. So we've all committed to making a commitment to sponsoring an up-and-coming woman in the organisation. And so that's still early days at the moment, but I expect that'll be in place very shortly. And once again, that's a need for us to really understand how we're going to go about that. We have had some success with that in the past, but we do absolutely see the need to do more than just, I guess, be there in a mentoring type of role. We need to be much more in a sponsorship role in order to help these women to progress. The other one is that we've done some gender mapping across the organisation, which is the first time we've done that. Very granular, right down to individual teams, to individual people, just so that we can get a better appreciation of where we stand at the moment with gender across all roles and all locations. So the intention there is to get really quite granular and quite targeted on that, to then be accountable, have different managers accountable for, the progression of women in their part of the business and their gender statistics. Yeah.
You've also mentioned targets that you've set together. We often hear the challenge then about merit, and many women don't want to be part of, they want to be there because of the merit that they bring, and they're worried that if they're part of the target system. What advice do you have around that, or what have you noticed?
It's taken quite a lot of very open discussions and helping us all to be a bit more aware of just what merit is. It's interesting, initially we thought, well, it's really this is really a topic for the men to come to grips with, but it's also something that it really helps the women to understand how this has worked against them as well. They haven't necessarily seen it, particularly those who may have been working for 10, 15, 20 years, and they've just been used to what the industry has been like for so many years, to be able for them to make an adjustment to say, well, you know what, maybe I can feel differently about this than what I do, and that can help change the merit discussion. I'd have to say for Northrop, we're just really learning now about how valuable to the organisation some of these very talented women are, and what they bring to it is in many ways a different skill set. They have quite different strengths, which in this day and age are probably more valuable than ever.
Now that we're sort of in the last trimester of the 100 days, what's some big learnings do you think you've noticed?
It is still early, like 100 days. Like, it was always our intention with the 100 days to get things moving. Okay, and we've absolutely done that. So, for instance, we've put in place those targets, and we're now started some of those training programs, and we've mapped our female, the women across the organisation. We're doing more and more in relation to flexible work, etc. So we're very much on that pathway at the moment. Our next steps then is to bring it deeper into the organisation, to take it down through more tiers of managers, particularly with the men in the organisation. So I think while our engagement with the women has been quite deep to date, and this is probably a product of us not having nowhere near as many women as what we do men. So in our organisation, I think it's about 23% women across all roles. And so when we engage with the women, we engage very deep down in the organisation, which was quite deliberate at the same time to get all those learnings through. But today we haven't deepened that engagement with the men. So one of our real challenges is to deepen that engagement, and we're embarking on that now.
Final question, advice for other organisations from the experience so far that you've had. What would you suggest?
There is a couple of things, I think. First of all, absolutely, if you need to very much engage with the leadership on this right from the onset. We went down a different path there where we hadn't done that, and we weren't really getting that far with that. So number one, absolutely engage with the leadership. Very, very important. Number two is pick some things that you can do and do quite quickly that are quite significant in the organisation, that people will notice and that people will feel in the organisation. So even things for us, just little things such as interview panels and stuff. Well, we want to make sure if there's a woman coming in, we want to make sure there's at least a woman on the interview panel. I mean, in the past, we haven't necessarily even thought of that, but just a simple little thing like that can make a big difference. There's no doubt you need to put the effort in to engaging with men and with women around what it means to them personally and how it affects them.
Thanks, Jamie. It's great to be able to hear what's happening on the inside and to be able to have these conversations that really matter as well. It's all about co-creating, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ceci. It's been a pleasure.